SkyTour News for August 5th. I'm Amanda Curran. Today, in 1930, Neil Armstrong is born. Neil Alden Armstrong was a graduate of Purdue University and studied aeronautical engineering with his college tuition paid for by the U.S. Navy under the Holloway Plan. He became a midshipman in 1949 and a naval aviator the following year. After returning from the Korean War, he completed his bachelor's degree at Purdue and became a test pilot at the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics High-Speed Flight Station at Edwards Air Force Base in California. He was the project pilot on Century Series fighters and flew the North American X-15 7 times. He was also a participant in the U.S. Air Force's Manned in Space Soonest and the X-20 Dyna-Soar human spaceflight programs. Armstrong joined the NASA Astronaut Corps in the second group, which was selected in 1962, and made his first spaceflight as commander of Gemini 8 in March 1966, becoming NASA's first civilian astronaut to fly in space. In July 1969, Armstrong and Apollo 11 lunar module pilot Buzz Aldrin performed the first manned moon landing and spent 2.5 hours outside the spacecraft, while Michael Collins remained in lunar orbit at the Command Service Module. Along with Collins and Aldrin, Armstrong was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Richard Nixon. President Jimmy Carter presented Armstrong with the Congressional Space Medal of Honor in 1978, and Armstrong and his former crewmates received the Congressional Gold Medal in 2009. Armstrong underwent bypass surgery on August 7, 2012 to relieve blocked coronary arteries, and although he was reportedly recovering well, he developed complications in the hospital and died August 25th in Cincinnati, Ohio, at age 82. After his death, Armstrong was described, in a statement released by the White House, as among the greatest American heroes, not just of his time, but of all time. The statement went on to say that Armstrong had carried the aspirations of the United States citizens and that he had delivered a moment of human achievement that will never be forgotten. Happy birthday, Neil. Today in 1973, Mars 6 is launched. Mars 6 was a Soviet spacecraft launched to explore Mars, with a 3MP bus spacecraft launched on this date as part of the Mars program, and consisted of a lander and a coast stage with instruments to study Mars as it flew past. The lander was equipped with a thermostat and a barometer to determine the surface conditions, an accelerometer and radio altimeter for descent, and instruments to analyze the surface material, including a mass spectrometer. The coast stage, or bus, carried a magnetometer, plasma traps, cosmic ray, and micrometeoroid detectors, and an instrument to study proton and electron fluxes from the Sun. Mars 6 was launched with a Proton K carrier rocket, with the Block D upper stage on this date in 1973, with the first 3 stages placing the spacecraft and upper stage into low Earth parking orbit before the Block D fired to propel Mars 6 into heliocentric orbit, bound for Mars. Mars 6's lander separated from the flyby bus on March 12, 1974, at an altitude of 30,000 miles from the surface of Mars, and made a flyby with its closest approach of 990 miles. The lander encountered the atmosphere of Mars and returned data for 224 seconds during its descent. Today in 2011, Juno is launched. Juno is a NASA space probe orbiting the planet Jupiter and was launched today in 2018 from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station as part of the New Frontiers program and entered a polar orbit of Jupiter on July 5, 2016 to begin a scientific investigation of the planet. Juno's mission is to measure Jupiter's composition, gravity field, magnetic field, and polar magnetosphere, and will search for clues about how the planet was formed, including whether it has a rocky core, the amount of water present within the deep atmosphere, mass distribution, and its steep winds. Juno is just the second spacecraft to orbit Jupiter, after the nuclear-powered Galileo orbiter, which orbited from 1995 to 2003. Unlike all earlier spacecraft sent to the outer planets, Juno is powered by solar arrays, commonly used by satellites orbiting Earth and working in the inner solar system. NASA has extended the mission operation until July 2021, and when Juno reaches the end of the mission, it will perform a controlled deorbit and disintegrate into Jupiter's atmosphere, which will prevent collision with Jupiter's moons, as well as eliminate space debris and risks of contamination in accordance with NASA's planetary protection guidelines. This is SkyTour News. I'm Amanda.